And this is the regular trees that we highlight. So right now it's spotlighting this. So we also do the spotlighting for our angles, so that we were spotlighting for everything. And we do that. So it's good to spotlight.
Are you ready to go to the foundation? Jim, are you ready for the foundation?
Yeah.
You'll go to the foundation.
Everybody here?
We are, but rather.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
Oh,
Here. Okay, we're gonna call the foundation meeting to order. We look for a motion to accept the following individuals as district appointee committee member, Corey Boyd. So discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Mahoney, so moved. I'll second it, yeah.
Okay, we got that? Am I going too fast for you? Okay. Any discussion? Corey, do you want to discuss?
Good, thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Glad
Yeah,
to be back.
yes. Enjoy yourself. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed. Well, who was aye?
That was Terry Breslin.
Jerry's on.
Terry? Okay. Do you have that as a? All right. So from that, we look for the roll call.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Dinsmore. Bob Redfern.
He did.
Let's check and see if he's.
He doesn't have a microphone.
You like?
I can't change that.
Okay. Mr. Bobsky.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Ms. Green.
Present.
Mr. Rickroll.
Here.
Mr. DePatrick.
Here.
Mr. Boyd.
Here.
Mr. Ring.
Here.
Mr. Gilbert.
Here.
Ms. Lee. Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you. Motion to accept the minutes of the December 15th, 2020 meeting. Motion, John.
Second, Dennis.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, I gotta slow down on that. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Motion to. Item number 5, motion to approve the following individuals as officers of the Erie County Technical School Foundation for the remainder of the 1-year term vacated by retiring Terry Burkert for corporate bylaws. That would be Kat Dottie. Motion. Mahoney.
So moved, Terry Brink.
Opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Keep us on our toes.
Any discussion? Motion, yeah, all in favor? Did we do that already?
Yes.
We did.
Excellent, okay. Motion passed. Next is motion, well, it says motion to approve the business reports, number 6. But first, let's have the business reports. Paul?
I don't know if you can see all
And
of the.
you can go up to the board if you want. Okay.
The report that we have in front of us is as of the end of November, December, January, February. We'll focus on the February individual column there. If we look at that, you can see that the total, if we go down to the bottom, need to read all of these, but the net income is $23,531.09. That is cumulative. And if we go on to the next page, all right, we can see that the total assets, the current assets of the foundation are $284,024.71. And if we look at the accounts 10011, you can see in the Northwest Savings Bank, we have $3,348.71. We have cash in the PNC account of $9.24. Cash with the Pennsylvania Max account, which is with PSLAF, is $5,705.80. And cash with the Erie Community Foundation, $274,960.96. And that is what makes up your assets of $284,024.71. Okay, if we go on, from there you can see the checks that we have. Legal fees is $79, $10 and $10, and then $10. That last report, I'm not sure why that copied the way it did, but next month we'll adjust, but at the next meeting we'll adjust that so that it appears correctly.
You go back up to the assets there, that Paul, one question, because I think we're going to approve scholarships here. The cash accounts that we can spend for scholarships. Go just a little further. You've got the right there. So you got the Northwest of 3,300 in that Pete Slough or whatever that is.
Correct.
Those are both cash. That's what we have cash. That we can
You
spend.
have cash in that, but then we'll also look at another report here a little further in terms of what you have available through the Erie Community Foundation.
For the once a year poll. that we-
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you'll see that here in a minute. Okay, so let's continue scrolling down. That is just the recap from August through February. And then that just supports at the very end of that report, the 5,705.80.
The next one page.
So continue on. All right, this is a report here that we looked at for anticipated revenue and expenses for the next 12 months. And I think this is what we want to focus on. The estimate from the JOC mileage and other donations of $1,500, gifts for kids and SafeNet, others about $1,000 in vending. We're looking at about $500. So your current projected revenues is the $3,000. If you look at your anticipated expenses, there's $3,000 for scholarships you approved before. All right, and you'll see those. Gifts for kids will expend the $1,000 that we've taken in. In terms of insurance, that's due July 20th, or I'm sorry, it's due July for 2021. Last year we spent $3,222. That's really expensive. For what you're doing, when your foundation was involved with Career Street, I could see spending that kind of money. That's too expensive.
I wonder if that
For
never
what
gets
you're
adjusted.
doing, you're just giving out a few scholarships. That should not even exceed $500. We have a foundation at Northwestern School District where I'm the treasurer, and we spend less than $500 a year. And we're giving out about $7,000 in scholarships, and then we have assets of about $150,000.
I think we bumped it up because of Career Street. Maybe we should adjust it back.
And then the other,
Excuse me, who would do that, and do we have what we need authorization wise to do that?
I will be meeting with the insurance people the end of April, and that's one of the topics I'll discuss with them. The accounting, that's another, I think that's a little high. I think that should be renegotiated for what kind of work they'll be doing. But if we look at last year's expenses and project them forward, you'd be in the deficit of $6,722. So your cash, if we kept things the way they are, status quo, you would still have cash. If you look at that very bottom line, projected cash would be about $2,412. So you're not really in the hole, but I'm saying that if you adjust for insurances and accounting, I think you'll be able to see that figure increase. Okay. Now, I think there should be another report attached to that. Yes, this is what I wanted to show you here. The total distribution from a letter that we received from the Erie Community Foundation, there is $9,407 in terms of earnings that we could tap into. And so if you distribute it all, you could be about $9,407. I've given you three options, 50%, 75%, or 85%.
Could you blow that up just a little bit bigger?
What do you recommend, Paul? I'm good with the, at least taking 75% to put general fund in case we have to distribute something. And of course, if the insurance goes down, maybe I get more scholarship.
Well, I can guarantee the insurance will go down.
Should we authorize them to make that change in the street, so you're gonna wait 3 months? Reauthorize it.
He's taking it next month, but.
Yeah, your insurance is paid up to
We don't
June.
need to get 3
And
months.
so your anniversary date is July, and so we'll look at the July 1 anniversary date for changing. And that would be the same way with the audit.
Renegotiating it, by our next meeting we'll move it.
But we don't have, do we have to approve that ahead of time?
No, we don't. We might as well wait till they renegotiate, then go from there.
Because it's all, like Paul said, it was, we're already negotiated, but then anyways.
We like the idea of renegotiating.
We'll do that.
If insurance is something we don't need, why can't we change it now?
I think it's already paid, isn't it?
I'm sorry,
Is it already paid? We already paid.
that is July of 2020. We're
The
looking at next
question
year.
is though, could we talk to them about negotiating now instead of waiting until July 1st?
To see if we can get a reduction on the
Yeah.
balance of premium, I could try that.
They were paying insurance on something we're not using. Say if you sell a car, you wouldn't insure it till the end of the premium. You'd call your insurance guy and say, take this second car off.
Worth a
I'll
question.
see what I can do.
Especially it's foundation, it's not like there's a lot of extra money in there.
The problem was we didn't get rid of Career Street. By the time it was gone, those contracts were already in place, I think, on both of those. And just didn't get renegotiated yet, so.
I would let them know when you dropped it.
Maybe they can do something retro, right?
There was a lag period, if you remember, in the contract itself. So even though we signed it, and transferred the money, there was still a lag where we needed the insurance to be in place. So now's the time to do that.
Is there, did you get any indication on how the Erie community is doing the fund itself? Is that,
I haven't had a chance to research that.
I'm just wondering if now's the right time to take a lot of money out of there.
You're not taking a principal, you're just taking
Exactly.
the gains.
You're just taking the gain, so you could take 100%. I wouldn't feel uncomfortable.
It seems like we could take like 5.5% or something like that, so the gains might be, I think that's what John's asking. It could be doing 12%. We're only gonna take, it wasn't something agreed to that we could take every year.
It's just, if it's on a downturn, maybe you don't.
There should be no investments on a downturn like
Yeah.
that,
So I'm just saying, I don't know where it is or
right?
what direction it's headed.
The letter that came from the Erie Community Foundation said you could take up to that amount without a affecting the price.
No, you're talking.
$2,000 difference. So,
Talk that a little louder and I'll back you up.
I say take the full 100% because you're only talking a $2,000 difference to have a little bit of wiggle room in cash account that would make sense. If you had $10,000 in cash, that's difference, but you're saying that that's going to drop down to close to 2, so keep a little more cash available.
Are there any expected expenses? So
Other than what he just laid out, I guess that'd be a question for Joe. Do you see any student needs or anything besides just the normal scholarship and the Christmas thing?
Yeah, if you're talking about this school year, we'll end with our scholarships. That's all I can project right now. And then again, we'll step into the next year. Like we already do. The first thing that we would ask for is your support for the Christmas gifts and stuff like that. So that's the only thing I'm projecting right now.
One of the things we've helped before is for some of the field trips with the,
Yeah, there is no Skills USA right now because of COVID.
but next
And
year.
actually, just to let this group know, we've always appreciated your support there. But Dr. Walker and I have actually now placed that, some money into a grant to help us with those trips in the future, because we were able to do that now because Perkins and the federal government's changed their laws the last couple of years. So we were very fortunate because we utilized you for that. We weren't sub-planning. So again, a couple of years ago, we put that into the Perkins grant. So I think we earmarked about $5,000 for Skilled USA travel in there. So again, if we really had to, Sam, it would be for the national competition or something like that in the future.
Joe, what about the kids that have needs that we won't know about until next fall, like needs for tools or needs for?
That'll be all in the Perkins grant. And again, if we had something that extravagant, we would ask you, but we've never had to ask them for something like that out of the foundation.
I don't know what we're getting on our investments as we put that money in the bank versus what they could do. If we're not going to do, there's not plan.
I'm willing to take more. I think our scholarships, cost of schooling is going up and other stuff, so we could check adding to scholarships.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. We have extra money next year.
We take it now and don't spend it, we just don't take as much next year. Don't think about it.
Well,
And if we have the skills money, let's off the scholarship. I agree. Their costs are all going up. So, or we can offer more.
Well, we asked for $3,000. So, for the scholarships. So you suggested we increase that by an amount?
we'll discuss that, but I think okay. This is already figured out for this year, for much of this, or is it not really figured out?
You guys approved in December that $3,000.
Right.
And we haven't started interviewing yet, but that's how our committee will build themselves around that idea of probably $3,750, because the federation will have that $750 donation as well. So again, that'll be our total that we would grant out this year.
But it's not gonna hurt you if we say all of a sudden you have 5 now.
Oh, I know, I was born in night, but not last year. We'll take your money. Stuff like that, so.
If we're gonna give it away, I mean, let's give it away. I agree.
Well, that's the reason we have to decide to take the money out, so we have, it's not like we can't, in the middle of the year, we can't get this money out.
Well, we've got to come back to item 7C, which says what the amounts are going to be. So we got to determine that before we can determine what we are going to take out.
I'll tell you what, I would make a motion 6, we haven't done yet. I'll move to approve the business reports, payments, and invoices, and to pull the 94, we just moved the 100% of the distribution from the Erie Community Foundation at this time. I'll make that as a motion.
Second, Gilbert.
3,487.
Are there any discussions?
Can you take out that 100% withdrawal? Make it a separate motion.
Sure. So I'll just move the motion that's there now. Second that.
Under
Okay.
item 6?
We'll do two.
We're just gonna separate it for voting
Yeah.
purposes, Sam, because we
Yeah.
already have a motion on the whole thing. So we'll just separate it for voting purposes.
Right. So we'll just, Jim, if we can just vote on just 6, just to prove
Okay.
what's written there. And then I'll make it.
Well, I think we already have the motion and the second on the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
So is there any discussion about that? Item number 6. If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
And I'll move that we pull the, I don't remember the amount.
9471.
9471 from the Erie Community Foundation.
Second, Gilbert. Any discussion?
Just don't think we know enough about the whole situation before pulling 100%.
That's 100%. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Opposed.
I oppose that.
Okay, we have 2 opposed. John, was that you?
Yes, I'm sorry.
And
Dennis.
okay. So we have 9, well, I don't hear anybody on the Outlook, what's it? Zoom. Anybody vote on that? No?
It's Terry still on.
She's gonna see if we can ask her to unmute again.
She gone?
I said aye.
Did Andy check this again?
Andy's still muted. I'm asking him to unmute, but
Is he on, there's some chats there.
So how many on Zoom voted aye?
One.
Just one.
One so far.
Trying to get Andy through.
And the opposed, how many, we had John?
And then
And Dennis? Anybody else?
So it passed.
So we just had 2. Okay, so
8-2.
it's a 9-2. Okay, motion passed. Okay, amendments and other business. Foundation projected 12-month finance. Paul, do you have something on that?
That's what we just went through.
Okay. Annual distribution, we're done with that one. Okay, on the foundation, item C, 7C. We need to make a determination with regard to how much each scholarship should be worth.
I'd like to make a motion to
Keep in mind that the teachers union donates 750, but that does not come out of this money that we have. That comes out of their money. So what you see there is the prices from the three county tax foundation.
But you haven't actually interviewed students yet. You don't know how many are going to
We haven't
qualify.
had Sam, no. We will start that April and then finish up in May and we'll announce that to you prior to graduation and everything.
So one option is to take the 3,000 and raise that a little bit, the total, let you guys, your committee figure out whether you add another scholarship, whether you up, that can be.
Yeah,
Your
that, you're
decision.
kind enough to give us that flexibility, that'd be great.
I think it's a great idea.
So what, you want to raise it to 4?
5.
All right. 5?
Take motion.
I make a motion to raise it to 5 and let the committee make recommendations on distribution amounts.
Nicole second.
Any other additional comments? Joe, you have any additional comments?
Well, I appreciate the conversation, I really do, thank you.
Okay, so we are ignoring the dollar values until the good or the foundation meeting makes a decision on how many and how much.
Well,
Until the scholarship committee recommends.
I think it's motion we have let them take a recommendation because we'll be meeting. So,
That's right, that's why it's on today's agenda.
right, but we'll accept.
Authority
We're
to
giving
set
them,
the amount.
right, we're giving them authority to set the quantity and amounts
Up to 5,000.
up to 5,000.
And they're making this decision on how many and how much.
Right.
Correct.
And that was the motion, second.
Right. Okay, any additional discussions? Jim, you're shaking your head.
no, time to vote.
Okay, no additional comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Terry Brank has also voted in favor.
Yes, I caught that.
Andy's an aye.
He's back.
Been here the whole time.
Andy.
Yes.
Um, 10-1.
Everybody voted.
11-0.
I'm having problems understanding what's across the box.
So
Everybody
it was
was
all
good.
approved, everything.
Okay,
11.
so it's 11 on.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're done. We're looking at the next meeting Thursday, June 24th.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
You got enough parking to adjourn?
Yeah.
Dave.
Second, boy.
Right. Discussion? Thank you.
All right, let's call the regular meeting to order.
Sam?
Sure.
You know, and I don't know if everybody knows exactly who Paul is.
I was gonna introduce him when we get into our meeting.
Oh, thank you so much.
Let's call this meeting to order. Please join me in a moment of reflection. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion to accept Mr. Corey Boyd. You join us. Motion. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I heard a crackle, so we're gonna go with 11.
Aye.
I Brink.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Dinsmore.
Here.
Lexi.
Here.
Mr. Olsonic.
Here.
Ms. Grant.
Present.
Mr. Rick Rose.
Here.
Mr. DeFranco.
Here.
Mr. Boyd.
Here.
Mr. Green.
Here.
Mr. Gilbert.
Here.
Ms. Lee. Here.
Thank you for all being here. Agenda and amendments. We've got updated to the general fund invoices payable. I think that's all that we have. Anything else in order? If not, I'll look for that motion.
Motion, John?
Second, Dennis.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. Meeting minutes. Do a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second Brink.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 6, student accomplishment highlights. Beatitude students of the month, February, March.
Then I just give you your list that you can, share among yourself at your board meetings, and you send pictures and like that, and we find every month, so there, you can find those out.
Thank you for doing that. Alrighty, public and guest comments. Is there anybody here that wants to address the board? And anybody on attending remotely that would like to address the board?
There's one hand raised.
Give me a second. Figure out who that is. Lisa Sorensen is requesting to address the board.
Alrighty, 3 minutes, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Sorensen, and I am the AFT Local 1589 Vice President. I'm addressing you tonight regarding the implementation of Procedure 126 for 4 of our ECTS programs experiencing low enrollment for the 2021-22 school year. As you all know, Procedure 126 is a plan to alter programs with a low number of students. This procedure has been recently restructured to provide a year for instructors to improve their enrollment numbers by only teaching half of the day and spending the other half of the day working to increase their number of students. Should enrollment not increase in the first year, administration moves forward in the second year towards closure. Dr. Walker informed the faculty on March 4th, the JOC has directed him to begin the process of implementing Procedure 126 by altering 4 programs next school year. Several different times, Dr. Walker has stated he has spent significant political capital to protect our programs. However, made it clear the JOC would like to move forward with Procedure 126. COVID has brought about a number of obstacles in recruiting, enrolling, and retaining students. The AFT is formally requesting the JOC suspend any alterations to programs for the 21-22 school year. Please consider the following obstacles faced in recruiting. My position at ECTS is Enrollment and Community Engagement Coordinator, and this is my 26th year at the school. My responsibilities include recruiting, admissions, enrollment, retention of students, as well as marketing and maintaining the ECTS social media platforms. Since the end of October 2020, I have been on a medical leave. I have a condition putting me at risk of serious COVID complications. Each of my job responsibilities are now virtual due to COVID, but administration made the decision not to allow me to work remotely. I am the main contact with your school counselors. We work very closely to ensure the right student is enrolled in the right program for the right reason, which is the objective of the overall ECTS marketing plan. There has been no designated person to take over my job responsibilities since I began my leave, and communication with your sending districts regarding recruiting enrollment has been significantly diminished. I advised the ECTS administration to delay recruiting until early spring. I was concerned schools would be closed in the fall as predicted by national health officials, and the schedule of recruiting would be interrupted. Administration made the decision to recruit in the fall as usual, and as predicted, schools were sporadically closed. And these closures directly affected the number of students that participated in the recruiting process. Your counselors and I worked last fall to create a virtual recruiting process, which included our new ECTS video. There are over 1,900 freshmen in your combined districts. Only about 600 of them participated in the virtual recruiting process. ECTS missed the opportunity to reach 1,300 potential students. And to date, I am unaware of any plan in place to educate those students on the programs available to them at ECTS. There are several opportunities in our comprehensive marketing plan in which teachers directly market to and build relationships with potential students. All of these opportunities were lost this year. Your students' first loss was the opportunity to participate in the ECTS showcase tours. During these tours, every freshman visits 3 programs of their choice, and they participate in an activity related to those programs. And this is when ECTS teachers and current students really shine. The teachers have 33 small group opportunities to make connections with potential students, and they do an outstanding job creating an engaging, informative, and hands-on experience for the 9th graders. These mini tours leave lasting impressions on potential students. After each tour, data is collected. Teachers receive a list of interested students and personally reach out to them to invite them to our open house. These teachers did not receive these lists. Of course, the open house was virtual, putting ECTS at an even further disadvantage.
Ms. Sorensen, the 3-minute time's up. I'll give you just a few seconds to share a final thought.
We have several other marketing drips, as we call them, that teachers were unable to participate in. The current plan for culinary arts, graphic communications, precision machining, and tourism and hospitality is for these programs to teach only 1 session in the 21-22 school year, with all levels in 1 session.
All right, thank you very much there. Is there anybody else
We
who'd like
would be very interested in knowing.
Anybody else would like to address the board on there? Thank you. We are going to discuss 126 here again in just a little bit here, so I think we'll hold any comments or clarifications there until that time. Anybody else on there?
I see no one else with their hand raised, but just to let everyone know, there are 20, actually, because there's a couple in twice, 20 additional attendees in the Zoom meeting this evening.
Very good, thank you.
Well, maybe you have one of those, listen that we're on meeting when we have our next meeting notes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, important items coming to ECTS.
That would be me, and we continue to work a variety of issues here with updates and reports that will be coming tonight relative to the roundabout, the renovation, new program development. And the school is doing very well relative to the COVID transition. Our teachers have now had their opportunities for vaccination. And so we're looking forward then to a big thing coming to ECTS, which is all the students coming back to school full-time on Thursday, April 8th. And that date was selected because it ends, it's right at the end of our Easter break. So we're looking forward to it. We're ready to go.
Dr. Walker, what was the percentage of back when they got this shots?
I don't have that number, but everyone had the opportunity 3 times. And there's 3 more shot clinics available as a last call coming right up.
Good. Okay. All right, going to section 9, operations. Got a motion to approve this submittal of the final 21-22 general fund budget to the Department of Education. And we've got a contracting, consulting contract with the nutrition group. Let's take those motions right there. Someone like to make those motions? That motion for those items?
I'll make that motion.
Rick Road and who seconded?
I'll second.
Bugsby seconded. Any discussion on either of those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All righty, so we've got discussion of board agenda. Who wants to handle that?
I'll lead off. As we prepared for this meeting, and we've done so with largely a new group of people, it's become clear that the way that these meetings are prepared is it's just very cumbersome and excessively time consuming. And so as we transition the JOC secretary position from Terry Burchard to Kat Doty, we've engaged in the process of trying to keep focused on 2 separate sets of requests in terms of how do we have access to links and references to documents embedded within the agenda here. Our business manager has suggested that we consider something else just to relieve the pressure for preparation to a different format where we would essentially use some software through the board docs organization that we currently have modifying our policy to organize the meetings and make then the attachments much more readily accessible rather than having to provide all these links, which, by the way, end up being redone every time there's an amendment change. So we wanted to talk to you to let you know that we're considering some options and some changes here. We wanted to sort of not surprise you with a proposal or a recommendation, out of the blue, and let you know that we are thinking about this, because we've really seen that this just this preparation of the agenda and the attachments appears to be close to 2 people at close to 2 or 3 days full time to get this done, with lots of anxiety and frustration. There's multiple better ways to do this, and we'd like to sort of make sure that you are aware of that, and that we want to move in that direction.
Who all's using board docs at their own schools? We do, so. Half of us.
We
are.
use board docs in Harbor Creek.
So they have a feature. We right now have the board docs feature that provides the policy updates, and that's, I don't know, $1,500, give or take. And it would require an additional investment to go up to approximately $5,000 to get this added feature. But when you compare the cost of the extra $4,000 versus 2 people for 3 days, once a month for 8 meetings, it's more than justified. So
And it really would take the place, as we talked before Jeff left, about getting a separate email for some of the things that we need to get. Instead of doing all that board docs, there's a place to do that, because we can do it all in there. And the public still has a separate login, so they can get there and not get some of the personnel you get.
And then anytime Dr. Walker would, he would just email us with update stuff, if you don't get the board docs, instead of email us, you go to the board docs and look at the thing here. All of you put in board docs.
Well, I thought I would just be sort of planting the seed and letting you know some changes are coming, but it sounds like the conversation might be a little bit more strong than that.
I'm clear, Bart, because like you said, anybody's used it, you have your own login and your own password. Nothing like, it's kind of like a live email. Anybody who's not used it? I've never used this. It's basically like a live email.
Well, this would address the issue that there was a conversation, and Mr. Boyd, this was in the time when you were not here, but we've been struggling with how do we provide access to the JOC members to the documents without having to make a 300-page document. And I just want to emphasize these meeting agendas have been this length since long before I got here.
Yeah.
And they're 300 and 400 pages. So I have not made any changes. I do recommend that we go to a shorter format here. It's not a shorter format, it's just the way that they're accessible electronically with their own icons.
What my board has requested with that, because one of the reasons that I think the documents have gotten longer and longer, one of the requests a couple years ago was, if we get this on Thursday or Friday, we spend the weekend looking at it, and then on Tuesday, something new comes in and it changes, and we've already looked at it, it's difficult, so that's why we do the amendments. But all we can easily do with the board docs, what we do at home school is anything there, it gets moved down in the agenda as amendments, and then we can deal with those at that time. And so if you log in Thursday before you come or something like that, you can look if there's anything there, the documents are there, and it does, you don't have to change everything else. Put it right down there, amendments and stuff. So
I think what I'm hearing is just make a change.
Are there any funds available in the budget, unused somewhere else, but yeah, we'll find out.
Like you said, you'll have to save money.
personnel cost.
We'll have a personnel.
Aggravation, it sounds like it's just a full-time job itself.
All you have to say.
So Tim, do we need to make that as part of a motion?
I think the administrative direction move forward.
Okay, subcommittee to review school-wide descriptions, or another discussion?
I'll lead on this one. As part of going through the infrastructure of the school, it's become clear that the job descriptions have not been reviewed consistently and as a package over a number of years. We have had a number of positions change over the course of the last couple of 2 or 3 years. So when our new HR director or manager came on board, administrative services and HR coordinator, one of the first things I asked her to do was to pull all the job descriptions and look at them for consistency and accuracy. And so this has been a process for multiple months. This has been going on. We've been meeting with the administrative supervisors for each of the groups of people to revise these job descriptions. And we're ready to bring them forward as a package. So they're all there. And so I think the request here is, would there be a JOC committee, or how would you like to review these things? Because this is as I believe it, a board action.
So how would you like to proceed? Maybe we can do two things. We could just have a couple member committee to start looking at them if we think that's needed. If the work is getting done, that's something we could probably handle close to a policy. And that is, put it out, when board docs gets up, put the documents out there, let us all review them at our leisure. We could do a first reading and then a second reading. We'll make sure everybody's had a couple months there, any changes, we come back. That's probably how we could proceed unless a couple people feel they want to have a subcommittee and delve in deeper before everybody else gets them. Sooner or later, everybody needs to get them and have them approved.
Honestly, I would think that'd be an internal project and come back to the JOC.
Bring the final
facts
back.
back. And I think that needs to be internal somehow.
Well, we have set up a process to involve multiple people within the administration. Now, we have about 60 employees, and multiples of those employees are grouped in classes, so there's not 60 separate job descriptions. And we would be fine with your recommendation, if that's what you want to make, that we just present to you the revised documents. I think the important point to make is that it was a systemic analysis of all descriptions within the entire school.
Well, consistency is important, but I think it should come to us as a final product that you're happy with, that committee or however you want to do it.
So then what I think I'm hearing is we'll bring forward to you as part of the materials for the next meeting, a package of completed job descriptions for your comment, or I guess you don't need approvals.
Well, it's like we would review them with approval, make sure there is something that we don't like.
Sure,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Right, we get approval, like I said, I would set a goal. Try to.
Overall, it might be a good order.
Yeah, we want to review them, so we have time to review them. Don't kill us with too much that we digest in one day.
That's a fine suggestion too.
And I would look to consolidate that.
We did.
All right, we're good with that, we'll put them out, and then if we have questions, then we can just table it or ask for clarification and do it that way.
Just so you know, what's coming is we'll put them forward in employee categories, such as administration, such as janitorial and custodial and so forth. And we'll deliver them over the course of several months.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we do have a motion to advance word policy revision for second read as noted in the attached policies and table of contents. These are the second reads that after we had first reads and we had some finished up the second reads last month. So somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make
Second, Boyd. And Nicole first, and either Rick Road or Boyd. Take your pick. Secretary. Any discussion on any of those clarifications?
I just want to point out, I think the clarifications, number one, you use PSBA in regard to the clarifications of these policies. Most of the clarifications are coming from PSBA based on their service as to changes in the law and things like that. In addition, our office does look at them. Some of these policies have been actually reviewed by our office. For example, the Title IX policies, which our office changed from PSBA's policies. And so the purpose is legal updates and things like that. We're not really changing, I don't believe we're changing anything in regard to the operation unless it doesn't make any sense. Unless there's some, I saw some comments in there from the administration as to striking certain areas that don't apply to the operation of the VOCAC or things that don't currently exist. So that's the purpose of the policy change. I think there's some confusion in regard to that, and I wanted to clarify what we're doing here in regard to the policy.
We went a little bit without updating for a while.
Right.
That's why there's so many. I think PSBA sends updates monthly, probably.
They do. They do it on a regular basis as the law changes. And that's a service you've retained and paid for in order to provide that service.
And that service goes through board docs. Yeah, I would like to emphasize here, I'm not introducing any policy changes based on content that we're introducing ourselves. These policy changes always come to you for your approval, generally in packets or packages of them, based on the service that we retain through board docs, which is the service all these school districts purchased. And so I just want to emphasize, again, it's not because we're introducing policy changes.
And if we keep up on it, it won't be as big a list. Do this every quarter or something like that.
So I was going to ask, does this catch us up?
For 2020, yeah. You know, the issue on this is that sometimes these changes come in waves. And it seems like we're all caught up and then all of a sudden we're underwater.
So does the legislature passes something or underwater?
Very good. So we have a motion second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, it passes. Let's go to old business. We got procedure 126 discussion.
So procedure 126 is a procedure, it is not a policy.
Well, can you pull that up there so we can see it?
Procedure 126 is a procedure, it's not a policy. And procedure 126 was drafted prior to my arrival. And as this group, I will ask you to recall, shortly after I got here, we continued the process. I arrived in August, and then it would have been in early spring, February, March, that the enrollment process is, enrollment review is done relative to us having just completed our recruitment cycle for the year. That process then relies on any actions that the JOC would take under the JOC's purview as far as curtailment or program alterations or continue on as has been the case. There were a number of difficulties in the original writing of the procedure 126 that the JOC has asked me to look at in the past because there were elements of the language that made it difficult to sort of understand what the procedural steps were going to be. So over time, I did modify that procedure 126 based on the instructions of both the superintendents and the JOC. So this year we had COVID and our recruitment process was not as it was normally done during the year. For many reasons, it had to do with the fact that transportation and visitations were locked down, so we could not have students coming in or our staff going out to visit. We did an adjusted recruitment process that was conceived by our student services group and principal. And so we then conducted our admissions process, and we have our enrollments complete right now. It is our intention to deviate from the norm with implementation of procedure 126 at the request of the superintendents and concurrent of the JOC, that we not move to implement any programs in curtailment this year. That statement, would you scroll up on the screen just a little bit? Would you scroll about 3 lines up? That first sentence says program curtailment of procedure 126 will not be implemented in 21-22, taking into consideration the COVID. So we are not going to implement that program curtailment. However, it was the feeling of the JLC that they did not want to suspend procedure 126 and all of its provisions for the 21-22 year. So at the request of the superintendents and concurrence of the JOC, the decision was made that we will admit all students to all programs that were applied and accepted. We will continue to accept applications into programs until the day school starts this year. That is not our normal process, but that is an accommodation trying to take into account the interest of students and the faculty, noting that we have COVID concerns. So we have 4 programs that we already had one speaker identified that have low incoming enrollment of 1, 2, or 3 students. So we will admit those students into those programs. We will keep our teachers at full-time employment. And in accordance with the feelings and thoughts of the groups that we've already talked about a couple of times now, superintendents and JOC, we are going to take steps in terms of program alteration to provide those 4 teachers with half of a workday to improve the performance of their program via program 2 months. I have shared that policy or that procedure as it's written right now with our faculty. Not all of our faculty are happy with the result. And there is some misinformation being circulated liberally that is factually incorrect. So we will restate here, we are not curtailing any programs this year. We are not impacting the employment status of any employees this year. We are admitting all students to the programs regardless of how low the enrollment numbers are. And an additional commitment was made by the JOC with the request of the superintendents, which was to not hold, if program curtailment comes back on the table as a conversation at any future, that we will not dismiss students from the program without them having the opportunity to complete the program. If anybody here that would view differently, that would be a great time to provide clarification for me. So I will just then provide for you a report of the enrollments that we have as of the date of our recruitment cycle being officially done, knowing that we're going to send applications to the previous school next year, and then we will get also the same data taken as of today.
As Fred passed that out, fortunately or unfortunately, because of my age, the length of time I've been around here, not as long as others that are at this table. But I actually sat on the committee along with Dave Rogers from Northeast side with faculty members and administration back probably around the 2007, 2008, 2009 timeframe, something like that. Because at that point, the director had made some suggestions to us about programs that at the time, the faculty specifically thought it was rushed, that they didn't have an opportunity to make some changes. And so we entered into about a year-long process of putting this procedure 126 onto paper and giving it some teeth. I thought it was a good process at the time. Everybody agreed with it and we were done. It's been implemented and worked through. It gives more signs out there for the faculty to say, hey, here's a problem. We're seeing something down. There's a whole variety of reasons the program starts to lose enrollment. And we want to do best practices here, but we also can't have programs with those students in them and keep carrying on a program like that. So I just want to remind, especially the faculty, procedure 126 has been implemented for their benefit and their request. So we've done these changes that we're going to approve tonight, or put forth a motion to approve, take in the pandemic reality of where we are, and also give really, and I think maybe it'd be good, Rick, if you speak, because the superintendent's really kind of led this based upon our last curriculum and said, hey, here's what we do.
Only, the participants via Zoom somehow no longer here. So just like letting you know, I just heard from Terry, Rick as well as to the sound on there.
All right.
Very beautiful. Excellent.
So there we go. Okay. So Terry, when you can hear us, let us know.
Every time you speak, Sam, all I hear is a rattling.
So is it any better
I can
yet?
barely make out what you're saying.
What are you saying, John? It's rap. Someone thinks so. We're checking on a couple.
The person, the other than the person who's talking.
That gives some feedback.
Terry, can you hear Tim? He's real close to the mic. Terry, can you hear me?
Oh, okay, I can hear you, but again, it's so muffled that it's just barely.
Everybody's mics on, because I feel like when this happened last week, as soon as we shut everybody's mics off, the sound got better. The participants anyways, not us.
The only mic on is Terry.
Terry, can you hear me now?
Well, she can take it as.
Nothing. Somebody needs to talk, and they won't know. Can anyone hear me? Terry, can you hear me if I talk from you?
I believe so.
If I stand here, can you hear me, Terry?
It's just as bad there, Tim.
Whoever just spoke, I heard that.
That was Dell, Terry. I can hear you and you can hear me, but I can't hear the Eagle's Nest.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like every time somebody speaks.
Any better? A little better? Dell?
Yes, that was a little better.
That is a bit better.
All right.
Is it still fuzzy?
No, it just sounds a little hollow. That's cool.
Yeah, this is acceptable.
So I was in the process of making some comments, and I don't know at what point the sound broke off.
It broke off as soon as Sam's 35.
So all of my comments were heard. Okay, so what I've just handed out is the 2 sets of enrollment data, and in very small print, and I can barely make it out with my glasses. The first sheet was dated March 3rd in the right below the main table. And those were the enrollment figures that we had at the end of what we consider to be our normal period for recruitment. The second sheet that I handed out, which is the colors are more vivid, the first sheet colors are more washed out, is dated same place, March 25th. And so what you can see is really we can direct our attention to the first column. It says possible incoming level 1. We say possible because these are people that had wrote an application and said they're coming, but at the end of the day, you know, we're not sure if they're going to show up or not. And according to the guidance that we have been discussing both at the JOC and in the superintendent's meeting, was that if we get to the point that we don't have 8 students, which is 1/3 of the capacity of the morning session coming into the program, that we would then consider, in this case, we will admit the students, but in a normal application, we would not admit those students. So at this point, we have gone another 2 or 3 weeks and we have added more students. And so we would hope that all these programs fill up, but we have to plan for the operation of the community. And if we're going to make any alterations, students and families and the sending school districts need to know as soon as possible. And what cannot happen is a situation where we're on again, off again, maybe we'll change, maybe we won't, because that throws the entire community into disarray. So that was part of what was discussed in terms of modifications for procedure 126. So you have the enrollment data here. You may remember that when I first came in, this data was very difficult to interpret and you had to apply reverse logic and then forward logic. This is all very straightforward now. So we can show you for every program who's coming in, who's staying, assuming that there's no melt, and what the percentages of attendance are in terms of capacity. That's all I would say right now.
In case it goes bad again, I'll make my comments shorter, but the history here is back somewhere in the late 2008, 2009, 2010. The faculty had come to the JOC and suggested at that point when we did our review that we changed the process. So we entered into about a year's worth of meetings with faculty, the administration, with a couple of us for the JOC that I participated in personally back then. Basically, we came up with changes to allow a bigger warning to our staff that, hey, your program is in danger if enrollment doesn't change. So that process was requested by the faculty. We acted, and when we made our recommendations to the JOC for implementing procedure 126, at that point, everybody was happy. Obviously, times change. COVID is a different year. We've got some changes on here, relaxing some of the requirements or suggestions. They're not requirements, it's non-binding, but suggestions to take the review process here as we go forward. So one of the changes is came to us from the superintendent. So I'm wondering if Rick wants to address just specifically what the Dr. Walker talked about a little bit, but refresh what the superintendents came to the JOC and requested of us that we have concurred here.
Yeah, I think to reiterate what you're saying, Sam, reiterate what Fred has also stated, is that the draft form of procedure 126, the superintendents were very interested in a couple of items. One was, given the status of the pandemic, delaying any decisions related to procedure 126 and fulfillment. The other piece was allowing kids who are still interested in some of these low enrollment programs to continue to enroll in those programs. So yeah, these were very important items for superintendents and JOC responded.
I would add a friendly amendment. Another aspect that the superintendents were very concerned about was that if we ever get to a curtailment decision again, that those students would have the opportunity to finish their program. That's correct. That's correct.
But it's not possible not to do some type of a, we can change the policy or procedure number, but we've got to review always, pandemic or no pandemic, we have to review numbers. It's part of the health of the school. We don't want 2 programs or 10 programs up here that don't have any enrollment. That's going to happen in every school district. There's no school district sitting around this table now that doesn't look at classes at some point. Sometime you let things slide for a little bit because of there's some insinuating circumstances. But overall, sometimes you've got to change a program, review it as we've done in the past. So that's what we're doing here. We're making some accommodations. It is ultimately the JOC's call on this, but we appreciate the superintendent's giving some input. administration giving some input. But any other questions or comments? Or
I just want to say that we have to, that's why we're sitting here. It's good practice to look at enrollment numbers and continuously. Every district goes through curriculum every year. That's no different than what we do here with our classes. So.
Sam, the four classes that are requested, I'm assuming, and I think we saw that information in the past, that say in a 3 or 4 year period, was the history of those classes dropping as far as enrollment?
yes,
That's
and
their
that,
statement, if I'm going by memory, because I don't have that paper in front of me. I mean, so, yeah, you have to look at the history too. So that way, you know, to me, that sort of throws the pandemic out the window. You know, if the history is there and the trend is going down, 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 we just can't blame 100% of it on the pandemic.
what's difficult this year is we haven't been able to take some of the steps that we would have had in the past available to us. So
And that's why we're adjusting.
when we started this back last fall, knowing that no new students, no ninth grade students were going to be walking in this building this year, I honestly, personally wondered what was going to happen to enrollment. I mean, how much are our guidance counselors at home telling about the programs? How much is it in front? I think our enrollment, frankly, is pretty good overall, considering the problems that we've gotten just getting out there.
Hey, I don't precision machining. That's my livelihood. I don't want to see that program curtailed, so I'll be a diehard advocate of it. So, you know, but we have a responsibility as well. So I understand it.
I think all I have to do is look at, and I think I just say that some of these things, I've been saying this for ever since I've been on board, should be updated, but hard to change.
Lab program names.
Yes.
To better reflect what they are.
Yeah, and I can tell you, like, the different ones, I think you was very surprised with a different name. What would you get for, mine one is like the electrical engineering technology. That is very good, and I'm on the board there, but I try to tell them that I suggest to change the name, but nobody likes to change the name because they like the name because it's more, sounds a lot better, electrical technology and electrical engineer technology versus commercial electrician. Right? Okay, it's technically commercial electrician. Okay, but you put an engineering in, it's a big selling feature. I try to tell them that this is not really this forced name, but they like that name and nobody wants to change it.
Any other comments?
I would just like to say, I think sometimes the programs need a little bit of a revamp. Like, for instance, electricians, it's much more than just wiring and putting a black to a black, a white to a white, a ground down. It's smart electronics, it's smart bulbs, it's smart switches, it's including a whole host of new technologies that people who are my age or that don't understand what's going on and what's changed in the marketplace for what these electricians have to do, or any of the fields, not just electricians.
That's right. I would like to make sure the names sound more inviting. I mean, that's why nobody want to change the one that says electrical engineering technology. Because
that's more inviting.
Right.
Yeah, but not just the name, the actual program needs to be revamped to reflect what today's standards in that industry demand.
They do that. If you were on a guiding committee for each of these classes, that's what you do. I do it. I've been participating in it. And if you're interested in doing that, every spring and fall, you get invited to go to the classrooms and talk to the teachers. So if you haven't participated in it, then it's your own fault. That's what I'm saying. Because you should have been asked to do that by the guidance counselors here, which I was done. I don't know who has never been requested. So,
No, I've never been requested, but thank you. I will look into that.
okay, that'd be a good idea.
Terry, one of the other things I think you know, but you just pricked my memory, and for everybody else's benefit, I don't think anybody sitting around this table, I'll bet superintendents, nobody's looking to curtail any one of these programs. Part of what you're talking about with revamping a little bit is part of this process. If we've got 1, 2, 3, or 4 programs that get to next year and just don't have the incoming numbers, that's part of that process, is going to be reviewing that and being able to improve that. You're looking to improve enrollment, but part of that is improving the program. That's
exactly what I'm saying. Thank you.
That's the goal we want to all get to.
Yeah, we're
It's-
trying to
it's-
provide time for teachers to do that.
Correct, and that takes time, and so any other discussion here? If not, I'll entertain the motion to approve the updated.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Terry, this is, we went down and seen the drafting, Ms. Ballard had the drafting design. I would change that to either design engineer. That class is technically, they're going to design and engineering work, not just drafting work. So there's one name I could say change right away. You know, it's more inviting if you said they're a design engineer. I mean, we got to go see what they were doing, and that's what they're doing, they're designing. Engineering.
I agree, because sometimes the name makes all the difference.
First start. Did I hear a motion on the motion?
Second, Mahoney.
Second, any other discussion? Let me just rephrase 3 things that we've come up in conversation here. Is defined by PA school code, the JOC conducts enrollment review annually and has since ECTS was created. Number 2, stated on page 1 of procedure 126 in bold red letters, is that program curtailment will not be enacted for the 21-22 school year. And thirdly, program curtailment remains the exclusive purview of the JOC and not the ECTS administration. So we're all understanding that, we know that, but it's out there for the public now. As there has been a bit of misinformation out there, understand we take this seriously. We really do. So any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, carries. Financial items, business manager report. So I guess this is the time we'll officially introduce Paul Sawhart to you. Paul, can you give us 30-second bio?
And do that. Take it short and sweet. 38.5 years in Northwestern School District, retired, loving it. And then the meeting came up here and I said, I need a challenge. So retirement is not all that it's cracked up to be, especially in your schedule. You know, a lot of things like traveling to Florida and back. It's kind of like enjoying life. And then I said, nah, I'll help you guys. So here I am.
Don't take the
I don't know
air
how
out of
long
my
I'll be
dream.
here, But I'm willing to spend as much time as you need me here for. So in terms of the financial reports, let's look at the business manager report. And I'd like to just start with, to read into the record, the general fund. As you can see the general ledger, we have a general fund as of the end of February, $2,236,168.72. In your capital projects fund, you have $647,179.87. Student activities, $14,777.28, and $12,765.41 in the flexible spending account. Total all funds in the bank are $2,910,891.28. So let's go on to treasurer's report. So scroll through that. And you'll see the treasurer's report. All right, treasurer's report. This is for the general fund. As of the end of February, if you compare it to the column of January, beginning balance at PNC and Northwest Savings Bank, made a change here, we were able to transfer the funds. $939,696.03. You can see the receipts, transfers, the disbursements. So at the end of February, you had $719,857.82. That's in the general fund depository account. And down below that, you have investments with Pennsylvania School District with Asset Fund and the Peace Max account investments, $266,626.56. We started the month with that. You were ending total cash balance in Peace by $591,842.30. The Erie Bank, you have the investments of $924,468.66. I didn't see any interest on that. I need to do a review on that to see what you have invested in. Too short of a month so far. In the next account there, we have the student activities. Let's go down. Let's keep going. Student activities, here we are. Beginning cash was $14,281.86. See the expenditures, et cetera. So we have the ending cash balance for the student activities of $14,777. All right. So those are the financial reports. Then beyond that, you'll see the statement of activities. It has all the detail. I won't bore you with that, except see the receipts and things that we've taken in. If we go to beyond the those, you'll see the statement of activities for the Capital Projects Fund. I'd like to read that into the record. Okay, Capital Projects Fund. All right, you can see that the total revenue as of February 28th is $474,292.72. You see the expenses, $404,294.81, which leaves you $69,997.90. Beyond that is your bank register for the general fund, accounts payable, et cetera. Comments on that, it's just the detail on that. Beyond that, you'll see the open invoice report. Expenses. And then at the very end, you'll see the lease statements. I don't have any comments on that. There's detail on purchases on lease statements.
Anybody have any questions for Paul?
Second,
Motion?
Boyd.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks for filling in here and helping us out. Appreciate that. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Administrative Services and Human Resources section. He did. He got, well, I heard him. That's not loud enough. It was mumbles. We have report, I think, is attached, right? Did you want to add anything to that? Now we've got resignation, retirements. I don't see anything under that. And then we have hiring. We've got a couple hiring. So we'd like to make the motion for that section.
Motion, Boyd.
Second, Dennis.
Any discussion? Yes. Whole section. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. I heard you, Terry. So report, superintendent's report.
Yes, Mr. Ring, I don't have anything to report tonight, other than our next scheduled meeting is April 14th to attack. Updates to the JOC program.
Thank you. Director's report.
I've submitted a report for everyone to consider. It's largely news items and report out functions, so I won't read it all as we're going on 3 hours into this meeting now. I do want to share with you that I got an update from Chris Coughlin today, the architect for our renovation. I asked 3 questions I thought were pertinent for everybody to see, so I sent to the JOC as a whole and the superintendents as a whole in the renovation committee. So the program, or the renovation, is continuing as planned. Chris has indicated that the plan should be coming out of BIU in the next short period of time. It's going out to bid on Monday. And so I asked about that $60,000 stormwater surety that the Summit Township wants to have. He said, hold on that until we come back from bid. At the last conversation, at our last JOC meeting, we had a request that we have some general drawings that individuals could take back to their school districts to sort of share. And it was the will of this group that there would be the elevations and the basic floor plans. The architect delivered those today. I'll distribute those before we leave. And so from my perspective, we don't have any disruptions here. We had a little bit of a conversation about procedure 126, but at this point in the year, we're coming through COVID. We've got all of our teachers that want to be vaccinated, and we're not really allowed to ask who does and doesn't have the vaccination. We're on schedule to come back to school full time, April 8th, and the snow is out and sun's been shining. I think things are good.
You promise no more snow.
I don't promise anything anymore.
You want to talk just quickly about clerk of the works?
So I was asked by this group to consider clerks of the works. There was a job description from other school districts that was put forward, and we asked the architect for a list of recommendations for a clerk of the works. And at our last JOC meeting, this group authorized me to bring on board a clerk of the works for some number of hours to review the plans before they went out to bid. The unanimous recommendation here from everybody that was talked to said that a gentleman named Rob Eastock was a fine candidate. So we've had a meeting with the architect and with Rob. We've given him electronic access to the documents. We've given him up to 20 hours to review the documents and provide comments back to this group. And we've established a rate of pay that was discussed at the last JOC meeting that's acceptable to Rob. He is available to do the renovation clerk of the works job if this group chooses to go down that path. And I can't say that I have a personal relationship with him. I will say I rented a storage room in Edinburgh for about a year, and it was his facility, but I don't have a personal relationship with him, and seems to be very knowledgeable about what he does. I think he's got a decades-long career at Mill Creek. So, John, if you wanted to say anything, that that would be up to you.
I don't know.
Okay.
I do have some comments.
Okay. Well, that's the status of that. Would you like more?
No, we can't enter into a long-term contract with them yet until we're ready to go. But from listening to the discussion in the last few months and even before that, I think the majority thought getting him to review it before he went out to bid was a good idea. So that's what by allowing up to 20 hours to do that was a good choice. So John, you had some.
Yeah, a couple comments. I would like to know how much money is being spent on the general fund. I thought last month we said 40 to 60. I heard now it's up to 120 or whatever it is coming out of the general fund for this project, for this construction project. I'd like to know what that dollar number.
We were given direction to take all remaining costs to get us out to bid out of the general fund to avert having to arrange for separate financing. The total on that was expected to be approximately $120,000. The breakdown on that has been that we have to provide now to Summit Township a $60,000 surety to make sure that the stormwater management plan is enacted according to their expectations. That was a bit of a change, 50% delta. The other $60,000 was a series of expenses that we have been accruing, and the bills haven't been paid for months in the conversation for water testing, core drilling. There were a couple of other of those expenses as well.
And the BIU.
And the BIU plan
review, which hasn't been spent yet, but it will.
I just don't remember a blank check.
It wasn't a blank check. It was told, well, I guess you could say that there was a blank check, but we talked about $120,000. And the conversation was, get us to bid. And so there would not be any expenditure beyond those that this group's already talked about on several occasions without me letting everybody know.
And the 120 included that 60,000 that we're not doing yet until we get bids back. Is that?
That is correct, and that's point number 3 in the message that I sent to everyone today.
The other thing is, I think it's a possible major issue, putting these things out to bid without going through the area. I think it lends itself to potential extra fiasco if we're putting it out to bid on Monday and BIU has still not reviewed it.
Well, the email that I sent to everyone here indicates that Chris said that the architect said that he would be in contact with BIU tomorrow to make sure and check status. And then that the plans would be going out Monday. I would suspect, or I would expect, that if there's a difficulty at BIU, that the plans would not be submitted for bid. I can verify that on behalf of
If
the
you
group.
would, then they're not going to go out to bid until BIU says okay.
Well, that would require a change of what we've already been told to do. So if you guys want to approve that, I'll do whatever you want.
You just said that you're.
I'll talk to him and ask what the status on that is. If there is a problem, then I'll bring it back to this group. But as it stands right now, I was told by this group to get the plans out to bid by the end of the month. And so all I did was turn to the JOC chair and say, if you want me to take a different course of action than what's already logged into last month's meeting minutes, that's fine with me. Just let me know.
Again, I'll say it's going to be a mistake. Get those things out of bid without BIU.
I understand that, John. BIU, I guess it would be good to clarify, because if BIU should be corresponding with the architect regularly, especially if there's some issues out there. If there's some issues, then I say we hold until we get those issues taken care of. To wait for them to do their complete, we have a building permit in hand, I don't think that's necessarily prudent, and I don't think it would be a mistake to go bid for that. There potentially could be some small issues, but if there's no large issues out there, to delay this process more just to delay, to me, is not acceptable.
It's not to. It's talking about procedure versus.
They asked for 3 weeks for a review. BIU did.
We're not even sure they have looked at it.
That is correct.
I'm going past history. Some of our projects have taken 3-4 months. I think it's just prudent. I'm not trying to delay anything. I'm just saying the process and the potential for extra money that we're going to have to put in is there. I don't know what it is. I hope there's not. I really do. But there is the potential.
Here's my question. All this goes out to bid. What happens if we get all the bids back and Mill Creek backs out fully? Because as of right now, your school board has not approved to pay into this project, correct?
We've approved $9.9 million.
You have approved $9.9 million.
You said 9.9
at your school board. Yeah, I last I knew, your school board did not approve $9.9 million.
So is that?
How long have they been submitted?
Of what they haven't been submitted, to the BIU. March 6th. March 6th,
It's been a month, so I feel like if there was a major issue, good chance they would have.
BIU, I mean, I'm not in a love relationship with BIU.
Right.
I understand what John's saying.
Right.
But
yeah,
Tim, I mean, your understanding what Mill Creek's done in approving 9.9 million, is that enough to say they're on board for that 9.9 million?
Mill Creek does not pass the resolution that everybody else passed that would authorize you to move forward.
And that's what I was
So
referring to.
they've got
Yeah,
9.9 million.
We're not saying
set aside.
go ahead with the project.
So you have not approved $9.9 million.
We haven't approved going ahead with the project.
And they've set aside 9.9 million. That was
Set aside. Yeah.
I don't think the 9.9 is the other.
It's the fact that.
It's
we're
the
moving
approval
forward
of
with
that.
it. Yeah, I just still get nervous moving forward with this if we don't have commitment from Mill Creek. We're spending a lot of money, we don't have commitment.
But they've made it clear that they're not going to commit until we know where the bids are. That's why they've reduced it. So we're in that catch-22 that,
Yep.
yeah, I don't want to spend enough. We crossed that bridge last month. This train's getting a bid. If that bid comes back really high, then we're back to the drawing board across the board. Because we have some limits that Mill Creek's placed on that, on the amount. And we understand that. But without having the bid process done, we're spinning our wheels. So I think it would be prudent at this point, tell me if I'm wrong, that we talk to Chris as he's preparing to go out to bid and say, let's hear if he can get some idea on the process that BIU is going through and find out if there's any red flags. And I think a question to ask them is, we're getting ready to go to bid. Do you see any big red flags that are going to change our bids? Let us know that. I mean, he's got a relationship discussion with them. I think that's where I would set. Yeah, if we have to delay it a week or two, so be it. But not to.
No red flags continue on.
Right. That would be my take.
Look, I've been here for a year and a half. But
We haven't changed much in the year.
I'm shocked that this project hasn't moved along further than it has. I mean, we're still ready to go out to bid, so it needs to move on. It needs to continue on regardless. So the bid process is the next step. Let's carry it. It needs to get done.
Sam, on the out-of-pocket money that we spent already, my memory serves me correctly, and maybe I'm wrong, but if this project does move forward, a lot of that money is already accounted for in the bid proposal from Chris.
All of it is.
Right,
all of
so
it.
we'll eventually get reimbursed for that money.
As long as the process moves forward.
Gotcha. Just wanted to make sure everybody understood.
And we voted to the roundabout money, that's the $60,000, that check has been received. In essence, that covers the hard costs that we've already had, not including that surety, but we're not moving forward with that right now. So it's a net close to zero sum at this point with that money. But the intent is that that's all budgeted, that'll get reimbursed to our
In the
local
$30
funds.
million
here.
bid or whatever.
Sam, was that the dollar amount for the roundabout?
64,000.
80,000 and change.
Yeah.
I was leaving when that was also, I'm trying to fill in the blanks
Right.
here. Okay.
Any other discussion? Does that sound?
I'm not, the instructions to me at this point, other than ask Chris to verify that there are no major red flags popping up for BIU. There's a course of action is not clear to me what to do, whether to go forward or to hold.
If BIU is saying that there's no red flags and that they're finishing their work, then we can go ahead and proceed as soon as we can to bid. If we have to delay that a week or two to get that assurance from BIU, so be it. But it's not something we want to keep pushing down the road here too far.
Okay, I've got it.
So our if he has to have it in the newspaper, I think there was a reason he wanted to get that. So
Sure, that's
yeah, it has to be so far, so long and all that. So proceed as he can. If he's getting some pushback from BIU on those areas, that need to be addressed. God, we paid him $675,000 to get to this point. They better be pretty good. Any other discussion on that? That was all under director's report. Did you have anything else?
I do not.
Solicitor's report.
As we mentioned, the PennDOT check did come in. We did do the paperwork for the attorney's fees reimbursement of $4,000. Dr. Walker signed that, PennDOT. We haven't received that check, so we would hope to receive that shortly. And that'll reimburse you for a portion of this.
So that comes back to us because as you've worked, you've.
I billed as I went, I'm just afraid that. The only other thing is the Summit Township Sewer Authority easement was approved by everyone and has been submitted back to Summit Township Sewer Authority's council for filing, and that's done. That's all I have.
Thank you. Principal's report.
There's only one thing I'd like to bring to your attention on my report. Again, with this COVID crisis and situation, we've done very well with a lot of things in school. And the first thing in my notes is the OAC spring meeting, Commissioner Advisory meeting. It was a very successful meeting for our staff that had some of them do it, most of them did with team. Some brought people in because the committee wanted to come to the school. So again, Mr. Eggleston did a wonderful job organizing the agendas and those type of things for our staff. And you can see the numbers there. We had 125 people attend these virtual sessions or a couple live. 103 were OAC members. And then, of course, representing 87 organizations. So that was a very successful, OAC spring meeting. Again, doing it differently, but again, it was successful. That's all I'd like to do.
Thanks, Joe. Motion to approve the report section of the agenda.
Motion, Boyd. Second, Gilbert.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. All righty. 13 is supplemental reports and information. Dr. Walker, can I make one request? Because we're the section 120, whatever the reports on enrollment, because that's open, can you make sure that's updated every month? Just so that we have that ongoing, and that'll help us keep an eye on that, see where it is.
I think that's a fine idea. It's easy to take care of, but please be advised that there's going to be very little activity for the mainstay of the summer, and then we'll have an uptick right before school starts.
Dr. Walker, when do we normally stop enrollment? What was the date?
When do we normally stop it?
I know we're going to push to the fall, but
We normally stop it right at the end of our recruitment period, which is right at about the end of February. And then that way that enables us to plan for class sizes and interventions.
you said we're going to continue to push it through the fall.
For COVID accommodations, we are,
yeah.
but after the COVID is passed, it's going to come back.
There's always changes. A lot of those changes, people have their application in, the changes, there's that melt area. You got your homeschool, guidance counselors can make changes there, and all that going forward. So there's changes, but the actual enrollment period we end early, where this year we're pushing it out. Okay. Right. We do have under 14, we have some different field trips up here, and so we've got a motion to approve everything in section 14. Somebody like to make that motion?
Also move.
Second, board.
In discussion? All those in, what's that?
I like saying that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Board action items. Here are plans. I have two things. I forgot to say we had an executive session before this meeting for personnel, so I'll say that now. And also, I need to give you a friendly reminder, myself included, to get your statement of financial interest in and completed by when?
May 1st.
May 1st. All right.
Please do it before May 1st, otherwise we'll get a nasty letter from me.
Oh, boy.
What's the reminder on this next meeting?
Go ahead. Thank you. It is not going to be 6:30. That was planned because
That's just in
we're
the
not doing
past, I
that.
think it was just a copy of your fact.
Right.
We're not having our student faculty lunch for dinner this year, so you can go at 6 o'clock.
We'll have our normal 6 o'clock meeting. Dr. Walker's promised us hot food next month, something like that. I don't know. We'll see.
I came back just.
You did, right? Anything else for the good of the body? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I've been trying to
think about after this budget in about 6 months. Okay? And I look at all the school districts as the school districts. I look at Erie County Public Tech as being a member of all these school districts in one big school district itself. And I look at the individual taxpayer, okay, who pay as much as a taxpayer in Fairview or Iroquois and everything. What I worry about with the formula that's going on now, that my district, like Iroquois or somebody in Watford, be paying more of their fair share to Bow Tech than somebody else. That's a question I have. Okay, I don't mean to be mean towards everybody, but that's bothered me for a long time. So if anybody can answer that question, that's what I worry about. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so I just worry about these formulas and everything like that, and see who's going to pay who. But I worry about if my constituent that's paying, maybe live in the row home Lawrence Park, paying $10 for this vote every month, and have somebody sitting in Fairview and be paying $5 at the same taxpayer. I think that's unfair, but you can take a look at it if you want.
In regards to the changing of the formula.
Changing of the formula, that's what I worry about. Because I know the Iroquois School District has probably lost some value. And there's other districts that gained value. Okay, so I just got a question that I asked, and I worry about my individual taxpayer in my community, as other people do in their communities. Okay, so if the formula change, is my district going to be paying more, the average taxpayer being more for this VOTEC program than the average taxpayer in Fairview, Mill Creek, or Northwestern, or wherever? That's what I worry about. Okay, so when they change a formula like that, I don't know when this formula is changed, when it was made up. Has anybody done a review on it? Has it changed on what calculated on this? So that's what I worry about. Okay, Iroquois school districts per $100,000 pays the highest school taxes in the county. We're in a fight with Web Tech now, trying to get more money out of that. They say their values at $21 million. We say it's $68 million. So there's quite a difference in the future. Okay, so I'm just, and I know there's properties that have room to expand and have gained value, but they're leaving their percentages the same or lower. So I ain't picking on anybody. I don't mean to pick on anybody. That bothers me. Okay, so if you know, that's my feeling on it. Okay, so if it fits somebody's shoe, take a look at it. I just worry about it being fair.
The other 10 school board members around the table appreciate the fact that Iroquois has the highest taxes, because it does help us when it's time to raise taxes.
Yeah, we had the highest. We're probably to be honest with you, we're probably the smallest. We're a mile. We're probably the smallest school district in the state.
What's your graduating class this year?
Well, I noticed that right now they only have 66 students. That's actually school. There's probably another 30 out, but we've been averaged from 70 to 90. In my personal opinion, I don't mean to be like this. I think maybe it's time to regionalize or combine school districts. Everybody's low. Everybody's low.
Well, that's what's going to come down to pretty soon. It'll be mandatory.
I think the state's going to step in when it's time to do that.
Yeah, well,
In Wesleyville and Lawrence Park, it used to be a Wesleyville High School. It used to be a Lawrence Park High School. The state stepped in, said we're going to combine. They said, well, we don't. Well, you're going to use your federal and state money. They combine. Okay. They Iroquois. Now, Iroquois itself is down to between 66 and 90 students. I don't know how you can justify keeping school districts open like that, but that's the way I look at it.
it's a big discussion because City Erie tried to take over Mill Creek. And it could happen there too. It could happen. It could be like other counties. It could be, there'd be one district. It would be only Erie County District.
That's a Warren County, it's just one, right?
Crawford County is similar, but they have many school districts inside the school district.
And everybody forgets that the states will step in and help you with the cost of this.
All right, any other questions, discussion?
I don't know that anybody's
The operational formula is what it is. And I know the capital formula is being looked at by 4 of these superintendents as to how it can be changed.
Yeah, I know, I looked right here, they gave me, what everybody pays, there's a tuition that everybody pays.
That's a flat per student.
Per student, and we get, and I got the formula right here, but I also got what the subsidy from each district gets. Some districts get more than others. Your boys is 1/4, over 50% of the kids that go to the school district are probably a little bit low.
Thank you. Somebody wanted to make that motion to adjourn or stay longer? Tim, you can't.
I just have one comment. Ms. Brank, I am trying to establish contact with you about your. Okay, well then, never mind.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All right, thank you all. Have a happy.
You don't have to
Easter.
vote for that?
No, leave. Vote with your feet.
Vote